We're now joined by Mpho Brown, Lesotho Highlands Development Authority Manager, to expand on this project. A very good evening to you, Mpho. Thank you so much for your time. The long-anticipated second phase of this project broke ground last year and, of course, making some seriously steady progress this year. Today, we saw the delivery of one of the most largest machines with the most complex logistics, the tunnel boring machine. What significance does this delivery hold?
Thank you, Mpho, and thanks for having me. Well, the tunnel boring machine is a significant, or the arrival of the TBM is a significant milestone for us. The journey really starts quite some time back. Back in early May, we had a team of our engineers and tunneling experts travel from Lesotho to China, where the tunnel boring machine was assembled, in order to do an inspection and conduct what is known as a factory acceptance test. Now, the complexity starts as far back as that, in order for the team to make sure that the TBM, as assembled and as built, meets all the specifications of the design of the TBM. This includes designs for functionality, designs for safety precautions and safety functionality. And so the journey starts there. Back in July 20th, that's when the equipment was loaded onto the carrier in China at the Shanghai port. Spent about 6 weeks in the water, and now we see it finally making way onto the Durban port a couple of days ago. So it is quite a significant milestone. It takes a lot of meticulous planning to get to the stage where we are. And so we're quite excited. We're quite excited that now it's some of the components are now making their way onto land and onto the carriers to make the road trip over the next 2 weeks to Lesotho and to site.
You speak about the safety test and the specs that modeled this beast of a machine. What are some of the considerations that needed to be made insofar as factoring in the terrain that this machine will need to endure?
That's absolutely correct. There's a lot of study and work that goes into designing the specific machine that is correct for the route that is going to travel, for the terrain and the geology that is going to encounter. And so these inspections are quite significant and quite important to make sure that those specifications are met. The Lesotho terrain is quite known to be a challenging terrain, both in terms of slopes, mountains, and the like, but also in terms of the weather and the variation in weather conditions. So all of this has to be factored into the design of the TBM to make sure that it meets the specifications of the tunnel that we require.
What will happen from this point onwards? Because I understand that security will need to be factored in. Logistics will also need to be factored in. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That is correct. So the journey from port, there's still about a few days of work that needs to happen at the port. So unloading of the big pieces of equipment started last night. And it's expected that unloading will take about 4 days at least. So the expectation is that during that 4 days, as the equipment has been unloaded and loaded onto the abnormal weight carriers, a lot of engagement has to happen both with Metro Police on the roads as well as private escorts to make sure that traffic management is going to be one of the most important aspects of the trip. Before the arrival of this equipment, there was quite a meticulous process of route planning. So turn by turn, about 51 lines of turn by turn directions in South Africa from Durban to the Free State, to make sure that obstacles are avoided that may impact the journey, things like overhead signage, overhead bridges, and things like that are factored into the route planning. And the transportation company also then goes and does a thorough route inspection. And all of these have been taken into account. And over the next 4 days, as the loading is completed, the convoy of about 13 abnormal size carriers will leave Durban and travel to Maseru at a slow and quite well-considered pace until they get to the Caledon Sport border in Lesotho in the Botabuta district.
Yeah. We know that this is essentially a project with ambitions of providing Gauteng with much needed water because the province and its surrounds are grappling with shortages as you and I speak. How far along does the project place the project insofar as the goals, because I understand 2028 is the deadline?
That is correct. So as I've indicated, so this is one of the more significant milestones, simply because the transfer tunnel, which is a 38 kilometers long tunnel, is being excavated using two methods, so drill and blast, which is what has been happening until this point, and this TBM method. The drill and blast method has been going on for quite a few months now. What the TBM allows for in terms of the program of construction, it moves at a much quicker pace than the drill and blast method. And so this is going to help with ensuring that the construction of the tunnel is as close as possible to the program as it was planned at the beginning of phase 2. And so as things stand, the goal is still to try as much as possible to meet that 2028 timeline. And we are confident that the arrival of this machinery is now getting us closer to that. I should also point out that this is only the first of the two machines that will be working on that tunnel. This TBM will be working on the Leribe side or the Katsi Dam side of the transfer tunnel. And a second similar TBM will arrive in early 2025 to start on the Pudihadi side of the tunnel. And the intention is for these two tunnels to then make their way towards one another and meet somewhere in the middle of that tunnel. Yeah. And so we're quite excited, and we believe that it puts us in quite a good position to meet the deadline.
So with this project being a mutually beneficial binational one between Lesotho and the South African governments, the Lesotho government, to my understanding, will be paid in royalties by South Africa for the water. How is this process going to be managed?
Well, the royalty agreement is one of the more important parts of this two-government agreement. The Lesotho government stands a lot to gain from the revenues that accrue from royalties, and the government is able to invest those in multiple development initiatives within Lesotho, over and above the hydropower component of the Lesotho Highlands water project. So it is quite an important part of the agreement, and we are excited that with the construction of the tunnel and the Pudihadi Dam under phase 2, the amount of water ultimately that is transferred into South Africa will be able to increase, and with that will come an increase in the royalties as well. So this is a win-win situation in all aspects.
In rands and cents, how much are we talking?
According to the current royalty rate, the Lesotho government, I think, accrues around 290 plus million rands per month in royalty payments.
Very well. Thank you so much, Mpho. Thank you for your time. Mpho Brown, who is of the Lesotho Highlands Development Authority Manager, speaking to us there about this very exciting initiative.